Journey with Judy. Honest, open, transparent. It's hot.
There's no such thing as perfect people.
All right, so starting off this journey with Judy, totally filled with emotion. Kind of unexpected. Robin and I just finished our opening prayer, and I kind of had it together, and then I just started thinking about the fact that I just dropped my third kid off at college. Gosh, it does not get any easier. It does not get any easier to leave that kid. And what's so crazy is this kid, she left me with a fist bump, on the way to a mission trip a couple years back for 2 weeks. And I got just a little bit more than a fist bump this go around. But the reality is she is where God has placed her for this next stage of her life. And I absolutely trust emphatically his plan to unfold in ways that only he knows. And so what's so cool is I really believe that, Robin. I mean, I can leave my kids. And I think Bob is willing to do the same when I explain to him this backstory of God has this plan and it's bigger and better than we could ever ask, dream, or imagine. And we just get to go for the ride. And so we have been going for a ride. I mean, since June, my man and I, and of course Campbell, because we dragged that poor kid. She's so sad that she's the last one left. There's nobody else to hone in on but her. The other 3 kids feel so pathetically sorry for her because she is stuck with me and my man. And so we got to travel. I mean, we were in Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, right? Not to mention that we have got to travel to all these places and been in all these states. We have been in just as many emotional, physical, financial, spiritual states, just all over the map in the last couple months. And so what's so crazy is I'm a numbers gal. And so I'm always looking at numbers, how they relate biblically. So I thought it was so crazy that every time we pulled into a parking spot in the 3 days we were with my daughter, it was spot number 23, because Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd and there's nothing that I shall want. That was just my reminder that God is going to give my daughter everything that she needs, regardless of how it looks or, it seems. And so what was so cool is I added up the amount of states that we were in, and we were in 11 states since the month of June. And so the number 11 is super, super significant in the life of my daughter, Kennedy. It was her volleyball number. It was miles away that she was from the hospital when she had her life-threatening car accident. There was just so many facets of this number 11. And so number 11 means, in the spiritual realm, it means new beginnings, and that something is manifesting for a greater and higher good. If you keep seeing that number, it's your reminder from your angels, they say, that God is just working some stuff out and it's absolutely a new beginning. And so let go of what was in the past. Anyway, the other thing that I was so mindful of while we were driving is there's so many beautiful states. I mean, my man and I are generally on a mission to get from here to there. That's just the way the Hairs roll. And we usually don't take time to veer off the road to check out other than what's on the road, right? And I've noticed there's so many beautiful parts of the country. When you're driving through and you're not on triazolam like I am when I'm flying, I could really enjoy God's creation. And one of the things that Bob noticed and pointed out was the mountains. We were in the mountains of West Virginia. I didn't even know, honestly, that West Virginia had anything other than moonshine, but they have moonshine and mountains. And not gas stations for long gaps of time, which we ran out of gas, but that's a whole nother story. And so Bob was noticing and pointing out to Campbell and I the mountains that were in front of us. And he said, there are some big time mountains ahead. And the other thing that I noticed is driving at night versus driving when it's light, you can see things more clearly. I mean, there's really a lot more certainty in the light than there is in the dark of night. And so Bob kept gearing us up for get ready. Like he just was so conscious about saying, like, this mountain is ahead and get ready and we're doing this climb. Can you feel the climb? And what I related that to while he was driving was the mountains that are in front of all of us that seem like Bob said, like there's some big time mountains ahead. And when you're going up, to be mindful that once you get there, that there is always this going down place, right? And so I've often said on this show that we don't learn anything when we're on the mountaintop. You know, God calls us to that place just to be mindful of how great his grace is, but then he calls us to get back down there and go back down to the valleys where we can learn and work out who it is that we're called to be. This is the first time, Robs, I have been bawling about taking my kid to school. People are like, how are you doing with it? And I'm like, awesome. She's in a place where God has called her and where she wants to be. But the mountains that kid has climbed, P.S. the mountains I've climbed with her as a parent have just been some big time mountains. And so anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to have some grit, what it means to persevere, and what it means to pursue your passion, no matter how many big time mountains are ahead. So you're journeying with Judy right here on Lake 96.1. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. We'll be back after the break. All right, so welcome back. Robin is kind of intrigued about this angel number thing, so let me give you some clarity, okay? This is not like superstition. This is just my way of trying to find God in the equation. And so when I'm doubting or I'm wondering, you know, like what's God doing, there just comes a time where a number comes up and I search the scriptures, of which there's 33,000, to find a word from God. This is not necessarily a Catholic thing. This is more of a Protestant thing, like getting a word. I want a word from the Lord where he tells me what it is that I need to know, reminding me that he's above me, below me, beside me, and all around me and everything that's me. Okay, this show is all about me, which is why it's called Journey with Judy. But anyway, so this angel number thing, it's like if a number continues to appear, you know, like in my case, it's on a license plate, it's on a clock, it's the yesterday or this week we had the 11th of July. Like I just am mindful of that number 11 because what it means is, and every number has a different set of significance. So that's what's so cool is in this case, it number 11 or 1 in any form, right, has this positive connotation indicating a new chapter of your life. And it could be a fresh start relationally, financially, spiritually. Like it could just really be anything, but the foundation of the 1-1 thing is a new beginning, like something bigger. It's time for your guardian angel to step in and keep your eye open to opportunities that maybe you would see as an obstacle or a triumph that you might find on the other side of a trial. So it's just being aware of your surroundings in this, you know, when you see that number 1 and that the possibilities are endless and these angels are sent to protect you in whatever it is that. So it's kind of cool and I totally get off on it. And so not only was there 11 states that we went through, but at the end of and I keep saying it's me and my man. When we walked away from our daughter at Coastal Carolina University, we had said goodbye to her because she was already at volleyball practice. So we actually went to the gym where she was and got the fist bump and like the one arm hug and check it out. You know, see you later, Mom and Dad. What I did is I looked at my phone immediately and the time was 1:11. And I looked up and above me, we were entering into the gym at section 111. And I don't care who's listening to the show, you can call that a coincidence, but I'm telling you what you look for in this life is what you find. And when I'm looking for Jesus, I just need to find him. And I found him reminding me on the way there that this is God's plan for Kennedy's life, and on the way home that I have left her in God's hands. And so don't get me wrong, I have not stopped praying night and day for godly people, godly friends, godly everything. But I just know that whatever works out, it's going to be for her highest and best good. So here's what's so cool is today our reading is from Romans 8, which is just so great. It says something about how Paul considers the suffering of this present time. It's just not worth comparing to the glory that will be revealed at a later time. And this kid in her life has just been so indicative of that. And as a parent, I mean, I don't know if you ever had a tough relationship with your kids or with your spouse or with your boss. Like there's just something that God steps in and says, like that little bit of suffering, even though it seems insurmountable, like that mountain that we talked about climbing, it is nothing. It is nothing compared to what I'm going to do on the other side of that mountain. So it got me thinking about what we should talk about today. And I think we should be talking about some grit, like what it means to have some grit. And what grit is it's that thing that keeps you going when nobody else does. It's that thing that you are passionate about that says, I love this and I can't get enough of it. It's that thing that causes you to persevere when things just seem so uncertain. It's like when you're persevering, you want what you want and you are willing to do whatever it takes, like to the wall, like balls to the wall until you master that thing. What I think about grit is that it's this greatest predictor of success. I mean, statistically, they say that if you got grit, you don't have to be smart. Like, thank God, because I have a 0 IQ. So you don't have to be smart to have grit. Grit is about determination and discipline and pushing through something that you thought would absolutely kill you, right? But here's the bummer, is we live in a culture that promotes the exact opposite. It's kind of like, forget about the suffering. Let's not look biblically. Let's just look at some instant gratification, right? We live in a culture that removes the grit. Like as parents, Robin and I were talking about this before we started the show. We just want to make things easier for our kids. When they're in pain, we want to take it away. When they struggle with something, we want to remove the obstacle instead of allowing them to maybe stick with something, even if it means suffering, to get to the other side. One of my favorite quotes is, the only way out is through. Right? You got to go through some stuff to get to the other side. And when we remove the through factor, we allow for our kids, right? Or even ourselves, if we don't go through something, we don't ever get to understand that convenience and speed of instant gratification really minimizes us and our ability to see what it is we're really made of. So I made up this acronym for grit. God really is testing. Grit. God really is testing. And so he's testing us to see, like, do we really want it? How bad do we want it? What price are we willing to pay for it? And you know, that when I say what price are you willing to pay, that reminds me of my father. My whole life, I heard this quote and this one quote: everything is worth the price you're willing to pay for it. Rob, have you ever heard that? Never heard it. My dad says it all, still to this day. My son repeats it often, who's very close with my father, because it's true. Anything is worth the price that you're willing to pay. And there's so often times, going back to that subject matter about Romans 8, which I think is so great, is that we don't consider the suffering and what's on the other side of it. We remove the suffering and try to get around the situation. So I totally dig that this particular kid of mine has persevered, right? She's got this passion, and there was nothing that was going to stop her, no person, no circumstance, no whatever, to get her to where she is right now. And, you know, let's be honest, open and transparent, I'm well aware of all of my kids' shortcomings. I feel like if I name them, then you can't use them against me or my family. But I do know that God is no less operating in their life despite those circumstances, and he will continue to put us in a crucible where we can continue to be refined and come out on the other side exactly as we were meant to be for the calling and high purpose in which he has set us on this planet. So thanks for journeying with Judy. We're listening, blah, blah, blah. You're listening to Judy Hehr right here on Journey with Judy, Lake 96.1, and that's only because of Greg Cunis and the Cunis Country Auto Group. So maybe you should go buy a car today if they're even open on Sunday. We'll be back after the break.
Be strong in the Lord and never give up hope. You're gonna do great things. I already know.
Okay, I do have a confession to make. I think it's important that I'm honest, open, and transparent. And this is the second road trip my family took where by day 2, the car smelled so bad. I'm talking like it smelled like you put like 20 dead mackerels in it. I mean, it was the most foul smell, okay? We did, of course, everyone blamed me, everyone being Bob and Campbell. They knew it was some food product that I had left in the car. And so the last trip was tuna. It was, I dropped a little piece of it and then smeared it on the carpet, and the weather in Florida just manifested that smell. And so that was my confession for the 2 trips ago. This past trip, I packed really healthy veggies, fruit, stuff like that. And I never took it out of the car. Look at Robin's got this face. Come on, I'm so busy looking for Jesus, I don't have time to be looking for my cooler. And so the whole car, the second day, so the good news is in both cases, they were rental cars. And so we returned them right to Enterprise or Avis or whomever, and they can just get the smell out. Anyway, the other number that kept showing up on this trip on the whole way there was 222. Now, here's the thing. It was 222. When we did the navigation, we were 2 hours and 22 minutes from our destination. Another time we asked for the time of arrival, and it was 222. And so I obviously, why I'm driving down the mountain smelling up my car, I had to look up what is 222. And so 222, my friends, is, if you see that number going, it's about the influences of faith and trust. It's about success, attainment, encouragement. It talks about balance. And what's so beautiful is Kennedy had told me that she wanted to make a recommitment to God, that connect with God on a more profound level when she got to college, which I don't know if that was just telling me what I want to hear. I can only pray that whatever it might happen. But anyway, so that 222 kept coming up about faith and trust and faith and trust. And so as she navigated to these new territories and transitioned to, college life, which is clearly different than what she's lived with here in Walworth County, it was God just reminding her with this 222 thing that everything was going to be all right. And then when we got to her dorm room, the dorm, okay, I can't even tell you how many dorms are at this college with 15,000 kids. It just worked out that God gave her room number 11. And so here's what I love. I love that God prepares us for the grit. In that, God is really testing us, and he's testing us to see what we're made of. He knows what we're made of, but he wants us to know that we can get through situations that we otherwise thought would kill us. And every time as a parent, the more we do for them, the less they learn for themselves. The easier we make life, the less naturally they develop grit. The more we prescribe for them, the less they develop the grit. The faster we give them solutions, the less likely they will be to develop this grit. And the more resources we give them, the less resourceful they become. And so we want to be reminded today as we wrap up this show that it is all about the grit. And the grit is every mountain. Like my man says, there's some big time mountains ahead, and there is no doubt that there will be big time mountains, and there will be no doubt that God will be before you and beside you, above you and behind you, navigating through those places of uncertainty. And so I pray that you are mindful this week of the Romans 8 verse, which is so great. I consider the suffering of this present time, this mountain that I must climb, nothing, not even worth comparing to what God is going to do on the other side of this thing. So I'm so excited that God is so faithful even when we're not. We can trust him to work all things out for our highest and best good. And maybe, I don't know, if you got nothing else to do this week, do some Google searching about some angel numbers and see how God is speaking to your life, your circumstances, and your situation. Because I'm telling you, somehow the message is about getting some grit. This week, keep it hot, honest, open, and transparent. Peace out.